everybody, what's going on? Today we are playing The Bears and the Bees.
Pretty simple game. On your turn, you either play a card, you draw a card, or you discard a card to draw 2 cards. That's all you can do on your turn. You just do one of those things. What we are doing is we are trying to get rid of all the cards in our hand, and the first player to do that triggers the end of the round. The remaining cards left in any player's hand are worth a different number of points depending on what type of cards they are. And it's sort of like golf, you want the low score. So if you are not the first person to go out, hopefully you didn't have too many high value cards left in your hand. Otherwise you'll end up with a high score and you don't want that. Game is played over 3 rounds. At the end of 3 rounds, whoever has the fewest number of points wins the game. So it's a card game that's sort of reminiscent of a tile placement game. We have these hexagon shaped cards here, and for a 2-player game we each start with 9 of these, and like I said, it's your goal to go out. And so on your turn you can draw a card, play a card, or discard a card to draw 2 cards. So the way that it works is that we have these hexagon shaped cards and they have different colors. This one just happens to have only 2 colors on it, but sometimes they have more than 2 colors, sometimes they have less than 2 colors. Here's one that has 3 colors on it. I have one that has a single bee. I've also got one that has 3 bees. There are also bears and flowers in the deck as well. And they all do different things when they're played. So these don't do anything. Yeah, they're just cards that you have to get rid of. But the bees will force your opponent to draw cards. The bears will sort of lock out a space. And the flowers are really hard to place.
Because they're all one color.
Yeah, they're all a solid color. So what's going to happen is as we play, let me see if I can find a good play here. So as we play, we're going to be placing these cards down, trying to make colored connections. So this is a wild, so I can connect anything there, but then I'm trying to connect this red card, and then that's going to leave me with a green and a purple.
So that I would go, I'd place
yeah, then
one
it'd
down.
be next turn. Then maybe I could do this on a future turn, and I would have made the connections here and here.
And if you make 3 connections, you get to play another card.
Yeah, so if let's say that we had this card over here, then if someone was able to place a card here that connected both of these purples and a blue here, then they would get to play another card if they could. And like I said, the whole point of the game is to just get rid of all of your cards first, or have the lesser scoring cards left in your hand if someone else does go first, because you want the fewest number of points possible. So you play over 3 rounds, and at the end of 3 rounds you add up your score. Whoever has the lowest score wins.
Alright, well, we're going to go ahead and play and come back to you at midway through the game. And then at the end, The Bears and the Bees by Grandpa Beck Games. Ooh. Sounds like more of a Halloween thing. Alright, toodles! Hello, Queen Bee.
Hi there.
So you've already got a nice lead of what? I have 25 points?
30.
30, and you have 0.
Yep.
So yeah, this is what our first round. We're gonna do halfway through, but we just thought we'd stop and do it at this point because it's so pretty. This is a very pretty game. Has that pretty factor.
For sure. So this is the end of the 3rd round. Nick is up by 30 points, which is not good in this game.
Out of the first round.
Have fewer points. So we're going to pull out our Queen Bee. We're going to shuffle up all the rest of the cards, and we're going to start again for round 2.
Yes.
There's 2 more rounds after the first round. So 2 more rounds, and then we'll see who has the least number of points
but,
at the end of 2 rounds.
I
3
am
rounds.
at a very bad start. With,
It's not too bad, but the flower did cost 15 points. Nick had a flower in his hand, and if you end the round with certain cards in your hand, they're worth more than others. So the flower is one of the highest point cards in the game, and he did end his turn. But they're also very, very hard to get rid of because they're all the same color all the way around. And if you look at board, you're making these connections, and it ends up making it so that there are varying colors that you can connect to. So like here in this space, I can connect anything to this side because this is wild, but this has to be yellow, this has to be purple, this has to be blue. So getting something to fit right there perfectly can be really challenging. And if you have a flower, which is all the same color, it can be very, very hard to find a place to put that. If he would have had another turn, he could have put it right here, since these are both blue and it's a blue flower. But that is currently the only place on the entire board where that particular card could go. So the flowers are hard to get rid of. And he did end his turn end the round with one of those. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will continue playing and come back to y'all once we are done and see who is the winner and who is the one that needs to work harder and get the overtime in the beehive. All right. Toodles. Hey, honeybee queen.
Hi.
You are the winner
Winner.
of the bears and the bees.
I won by 10.
We didn't really see any bears though.
We saw one bear, but he came out during the setup of one of the rounds, so he got kicked out. So yeah, he is the only bear.
Got stung on the nose.
Oh, scent packing. He was the only bear we saw this game though. So I was up. Well, I was down by 10 points, so I won. But even it was only because I had a really good lead at the start of the game. Nick actually went out the last 2 rounds of the game.
But I had a lot of plants and high value cards.
Yeah.
And
I had only low value cards.
Yeah. So eventually you got to the point where you were still at 0, but your points that you gained took me down to kind of like level things out. But I still had 10 more points.
Yeah.
So I was a loser.
Woohoo. So her.
But after every game, you always have a beautiful little pattern set up.
That's gorgeous.
Afterwards, even if there's a bear there.
Yeah, even if there's a bear. So the way the bears work is that when you place a bear,
you can't attach anything to it.
Yeah, you can't. So I think there are only 3 bears in the game, and you can put a bear adjacent to any honey. So
there has to be at least one honey. Like
he could go here, and he'd be snacking on that little honey right
there.
there.
But then nothing else can play.
But yeah, then no one could put any other cards around him. I think he also forces your opponents to draw a card, maybe. So yeah, that's the way the bears work. The only other special cards that are in the game are the bee cards, and there are 2 types of bee cards. There's the drones and the worker bees. And
the drones are just easier to play. The worker bees.
The drones always have at least 50%, or it's always 50% of the drones are covered in wild. So they're easier to place. And then the worker bees there's always one side that's wild, and then usually it's a bunch of different colors on the other sides.
But then you also give your opponent a card.
Yeah. So if we're playing with more players, the worker bees would force one player of your choice to draw a card, and the flowers would force every other player to draw a card. But since we're only playing a 2-player game, then it's, you always have to draw cards. So yeah, it's a pretty simple game. Like I said, on your turn you just draw a card or play a card or discard a card to draw 2 cards. That's really all you can do, and you're just trying to find the most strategic places to place your cards so that you can make as many matches as possible
and get out faster than your opponent, leaving them with a bunch of cards for points.
Yeah. So there's not a ton of strategy, and it's pretty simple and quick, but I really like this one a lot, especially I'm very tired. I did not get much sleep last night, and we still wanted to play a game after dinner, and so it was nice because even though I'm really, really tired, it was still something that we could handle, and it didn't take up our entire evening. It didn't take up the remaining brain cells I had left today. But it was still a nice
kind of calming game. A nice like warm cup of milk before bed, except a warm cup of honey and strategy.
Okay, all right. I did have a caramel while we were playing. The Withers original just started coming out with soft caramels. and they are very, very yummy. So I was having a little bit of caramel while we played. Caramel with a glass of milk is one of my favorite treats.
Well, this was The Bears and the Bees by Grandpa Beck Games, and yeah, we will come back to you guys next time when we play again. So toodles and sleep.